Okay. I think we're live.
Yeah, I do believe we
I
are.
think we're live. Hello.
He's in the frame now.
I'm in the frame. Hang on, let me just twist the camera a bit and then get myself in the frame.
Welcome to another PowerShell 101 with
Michael and Christian. Yeah, Michael.
Christian.
Oh, mate. Sex machine. No. Michael and Christian.
Poshbot, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's the term.
Yeah, Poshbot. Yeah. No. Yeah. Welcome to another 101 PowerShell with Michael and Christian. In this lesson, we're going to be basically doing a bit of just going to be recapping on what we did with where object and the where method. So again, we're just going to be going through those. Also, we are going to be doing some for each object again, but this time we're actually going to be going a little bit more depth, especially with for each object, because it has a lot of cool features that some of you guys might not touched on. If you've experienced with PowerShell, you probably will be, but it's going to be more for fundamentals with exploring what we call begin, process, and end in concepts. So I hope you guys stick around for that. So it's going to be really good. But yeah, so before we get started, usually just have a bit of an informal chat, find out what's going on in the world. So how's
more assignments?
More assignments.
Love those assignments.
Yeah.
We're focusing more on the Cisco security now. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks back. So we've got 3 assignments to do with that. A lot of them are just simply, this is a fake company, this is what they've got, now you need to essentially assess what you've been told they have, what controls would you implement, how would you implement them, in other words, just to secure their setup.
Yep.
We also have complex networking at the moment. That's more focusing obviously on the networking side. We just covered Ether channel, which is called trunking if you're not Cisco, I believe.
Yeah, I think even in the Cisco community, you just call it trunking.
No, you've got trunking, which is
You mean trunk ports, or do you?
No.
Okay, Ether
trunking.
channel.
Ether channel in Cisco, and we were told if you're not Cisco, it's called trunking, just to confuse the issue. Because hooray Cisco. And then we've also got virtual cluster as well, and we've just been working through virtualizing machines using vCenter server. Hooray.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, well, when you
is that on your ESXi instance, and then
so what we've got is a host machine with Windows 7 on it. On that, they've loaded VMware Workstation 12 Pro, and in that we've built 5 servers now. So 2 ESXi, 1 FreeNAS, and domain controller, and a vCenter server. But the issue comes when you create a VM on ESXi and you have to pass through the VM to a VM on another VM.
VMception. I'm guessing things slow down a bit there as well.
Yeah, you end up getting double inputs. I tried to do it at home and it just wouldn't actually load the vCenter software. I don't have enough RAM.
Yeah. One of the things is, especially with clustering though, vCenter is really important, especially just obviously when it comes to migrating VMs and things like that. It's just management in general. Like if you've got a host, let's say you've got 20 hosts running ESXi or Hyper-V, you kind of, to manage them, it's just too much of a headache. So generally, you'll cluster your hosts together. It also provides fault tolerance. So obviously, this cluster goes down, you've got an active node available to kind of migrate. So yeah, cool. Alrighty. So this weekend, I'm not going to stream it because I'm going to be completely offline. But Saturday, I'll be reconfiguring my firewall, 100%. So at home here, I run Sophos and a Sophos SG firewall, running UTM-9. And then basically this weekend, I'm going to be upgrading that to an XG. So I've been slowly going through building concepts out for that, just getting my head around the documentation, what I need to do there. A lot of work to be done, but totally worth it, especially since Sophos is actually, UTM it's still there, it's still being supported, but it's kind of on its way out. The big kind of push for me was the fact that endpoint, which is basically endpoint protection, it's being phased out. So it's just basically on virus scanning, things like that on the desktops, things like that. So the pushes is obviously that off. So at the end of the day, it's not really much of a problem for me because I'm just going to, it just helps me recoup resources. So I'm going to be able to put an XG firewall and then I have to run that, and then I can just have another cloud service deal with that. So anyway, guys, let's get stuck into it. So hope you guys, g'day if you're watching. Also, that's a terrible focus. Let me see if I can fix the webcam. This webcam is somewhat...
Also, speak up if we're too loud, too...
Yeah, if we're too quiet or too loud, just let us know. We're definitely... Just trying to... I think that's in focus right there. Let us know. Yeah, perfect. We're obviously moderating this chat, so yep, all good to go. Excuse the... G'day, Glenn. How you going, mate? Excuse the RGB terribleness in the background. That's due to... an issue with the water block, or the EK water block having issues with some weird, some of the RGB lights were just flickering when it was set to a static color, and it's supposed to be a static color. Uninstall the software and it just fixes itself, so I've got to kind of start sorting that out. But anyway, all show and no go. Lol, it will go. Put it that way, mate. It will go. It's got a lot of go to it. Anyway. What did we learn? Moving on. So what we're going to be doing is, I'm just going to quickly, again, I'm just going to create another directory. I'm just going to call it make directory. I'm just going to call it temp. Oh, already got a temp. Make directory lesson. So there's nothing. This is just going to be a temp directory. I'm not going to be doing anything super crazy in it. But I just kind of obviously need something to work with. So we're going to focus on the screen in a second. I'm going to remember that. Screen, please. Yes, I anticipated it perfectly. So, alrighty, let's focus on the screen. Alright, so...
Yeah, you don't want to see me.
Alrighty. That's actually something I've kind of try and work out. So... Like, obviously I'm cutting that right part of the screen off, which, right, for me, it's alright. But, like, I've got the upcoming talk, which is actually going to be a problem, because I've got to, like, we kind of need the whole screen, and, like, you can't just have... So, like, yeah, I can shrink the screen and all that, but it's like, then, you know, you lose the resolution. Then, you know, you're looking at something that's, like, 720, and it's kind of annoying, because then, like, the guys watching at home can't actually properly see what I'm trying to display.
Well, the other option, I suppose, is you just keep opening and closing your sidebar.
What I'm thinking I might do is I might just drag off like the video, like I'll shrink the video right down so it's even smaller, and then I'm just going to move it all over and then shrink it that way so it's not as prominent.
What do you reckon, Glenn? Sounds good.
Yeah. Also, Glenn, are you going to NDC this year? I think you are, but I just wanted to be 100% sure. Are you going to NDC this year? Anyway, while waiting on that, NDC not yet. What? You could be going to NDC. I know you're like, obviously, you know, our talks got rejected, but I'm kind of like, we gotta catch up. Like, that's the only thing that, like, I was a cat. Yes, it is. It is major. But I'm gonna be a bit of a troll. I've got a golden ticket. And he's like, viewer Glenn is disconnected. That, like, oh man, that was such a, like, yeah, anyway, that was like such a troll moment. I was like winning, like, for some reason I was just winning all the random games at Ignite conference. And they're like, yeah, you need to pull out a 5 out of this big ticket thing. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I'm like, and like, one of my co-workers, Lee, he's like, man, he's going to pull it out the freaking win. He's been winning all day. And I'm like, mate, whatever. Like, I'm just like, they pull it out. I'm just like, oh, it's a 5. And they're like, oh my God. I'm just like, yeah, okay. So, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So, anyway, so we're going to do look at where objects. I'm going to look at where. So, what I want you to do, you're going to be driving. I'm just going to kind of just... So what we're going to be doing is just going to be re-exploring where. I'm going to get you to start driving. I'm going to kind of jump off. Release control. And I want you to basically, let's enumerate, this will be a good one for you. Enumerate all the registry keys. Actually, no, because that's like, give me all the VMs and filter the VM by test domain controller.
Okay.
So how are you going to get all the VMs? Like, what do you reckon that, like, so this is when you talk through the processing and figure out your commandlets. So, like I said before, you can use get command, remember?
Yep. I was just about to type that in.
Okay. I'm going to leave it there and you can keep driving.
And that was actually as far as my mental process had gotten.
Okay, so remember how we can use get command? We're basically sitting here and we're just watching many commands.
Yeah.
Okay, so just control C that out. Oh, let's finish. So hit up. We're going to wildcard it. So what do you reckon we're going to do to wildcard that? We're looking for a VM. So what are we going to do? Yep, so we're going to search everything on the left to do with VM.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, go ahead. Okay, perfect. So what do you reckon the command's going to be? Yep, hit enter.
Wow.
It also helps if he has to require permissions. Give me 2 seconds.
You mean you can't elevate the terminal inside the terminal?
Oh, you can. I'm just like...
So if I type in start process PowerShell...
Yeah, you can. Like, don't get me wrong, you can. It's just that I'm like super... it's just easier to do it this way. For me, anyway. Alright, you're on. Yep. Did I close the wrong one down?
No, you didn't.
Okay, elevate. Alright. Okay. I want you to filter it by test domain controller. Let's use where object. I want you to use where object. I don't want you to use where.
Right. Okay.
This is really inefficient, but I'm kind of like, we're gonna keep extending on the story. So I want you to keep, we're gonna keep using the same commandlet. Oh, sorry, the same pipeline. It's right there. Look at that. Bang.
That one?
I was looking at the first one.
Up there?
Oh, sorry, no. There.
Ah, that.
Yep. So I usually just encapsulate inside a script block. Now you don't have to, like, it's just that, like, it really depends on the person and how they write it. In PowerShell, PowerShell 5, you don't really need to do it. I think it's even PowerShell 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, Glenn. It's just that generally just use the dollar underscore. It's kind of, yeah. G'day, Anthony. How you going? Welcome to the stream. We're going to be just recapping on what we did last time, and then we're going to be walking into for each object and for each. So, yeah, good, mate. Really good. We're living the life. So,
I feel like I'm doing this wrong.
yes. So remember, we're looking at the property name. So basically, we're filtering by the property name. Oh, sorry, not the property name. So if you type get VM, and then get rid of where object. Okay, so remember, so when we're inside a where object,
yeah,
the dollar underscore dot is referencing the property, the inline property. Dollar underscore is the inline object of that current instance in the loop. The dot is the properties. So what do you reckon we're going to be doing there? I want you to stop for a second. Why would you think its name? What's telling you its name? Like, can be honest. Like, you say
Well,
you guessed.
you said test the main controller, and if you look right here, that you got a VM called test the main controller.
Why did you call it name though?
Well, because up the top here, you've got a property called name.
Okay, yep, that's fair enough. Yep, keep going. I want you to remember that because that's how you're going to be doing these kinds of things. You're going to be looking for those values. So if you're basically doing a... now, will that work?
Isn't PowerShell by default not case sensitive?
Case insensitive?
However, I have set equal. So
all right. Let's throw it out to the chat. Will that work or won't that work? Glenn, don't answer. You're forbidden.
There we go. Hang on, is that nope, you won't answer, or so nope, you will answer, or no, it won't work? Just, being difficult here.
Well, I want you to run it. I want you to do it anyway, and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna say, that's gonna work. There it is. There. Redacted. The reason why is PowerShell is case insensitive from the get-go. If we change that and we use the CEQ or the case sensitive equals operator, that basically changes it. So that will then, if you run that, it won't actually work because it's case sensitive matching rather than case insensitive. In this instance, we don't really care. All right, so we've got it. It's got a little bit of memory, but it's all right. I want you to now turn that VM on.
All the way back to the top.
I want you to keep the same thing going, just FYI, but if you need to go get command, yeah, perfect. I want you to talk me through why you're doing what you're doing as well, because it's really good for people to...
Yeah, grab and get command because I don't actually know what the commandlet is for starting a VM, unless, of course, it is start VM.
It's a pretty good chance it's going to be start VM.
It's always better to check, though.
Yep, I would if... yeah. You're driving. I'm going to be honest. If you think it's start VM, I'm just going to go get command start VM. That's what I'm going to do. Now remember, it's tag complete. It technically is allowed. Yeah, I would say it's allowed. Yep.
I keep forgetting that's the thing. In all honesty.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So you've got start your VM. Okay. So before we start it, I just kind of want to go through again. Remember, verb, noun.
Yeah.
So the VM is the noun. Everything to do with the VM pertains. That specific items pertains to a VM. So if you're wanting to turn a VM on, it would be start. If you wanted to turn a VM off, what do you reckon would be?
Stop.
Exactly. So it's going to basically be that it's following that. So the common denominator is VM, but everything else associated with it. So for example, starting, stopping, VM, things like that would be that. Now, if you wanted to add, like for example, add a disk and things like that, it gets a little bit more complicated, and that's the reason why. Because it doesn't necessarily. It's not like, for example, a virtual hard disk is not a direct representation of a VM. A virtual hard disk can be attached to a host.
Yeah.
It can be attached to anything. So that would be a new VHD. And then basically to attach, you would basically go attach VM or VM disk. That'd probably be what the commandlet would be. So it's basically, yeah, but exactly right. So what Glenn's basically saying there is if you want to do a shortcut, you can just go start, hit V, yep, tab.
Yeah.
Good. All right, let's start it.
Although in that instance, it's probably quicker just to hit M.
Yeah, it probably is. So VM started. So I want you to get the status again, and we want to see what its status is at. Yep.
Ah, wait. Not the case sensitive one.
Okay. Oh, state's off. Why is the state off? State's off. Why do you think the state's off?
Yep, I can see exactly why. Because this one called for case sensitive.
Good spot. Very good spot, mate. That was a really good spot. Bang, there we go. I actually didn't spot it until you actually spotted it, to be honest. I knew there was something not right. Now, now we're just working with where object.
Yep.
If you wanted to actually get that VM directly and you knew the name, you would just go get VM hyphen name, test domain control, start VM. But in this instance, all right, so you can see it's running. We're going to stop it. So I want you to just take the shortcut and go ahead and stop it. Yeah, you can just do that exactly as well. You can just go stop domain and then go test domain. You think it's going to work? It's not going to work because that's a parameter. You just put a parameter in there. So if you're going to, so the first thing, if you don't know what the thing is, just tab it out. Find out what's actually there. So if we just go tab, you can see how we've got all these things. Yep. You see VM, you see name. So I'm just going to say I'm just going to assume directly it's name. Generally speaking, each suite of commands will follow that kind of approach. So let's turn it off. There we go, turning it off. Now, it might not turn off immediately because
it might still be in the startup process.
Exactly. So we actually won't know, but that's all right. I want you to do that all again. So I want you to get a VM with where object, but this time we're not going to use where object. We're going to use where. So
the way I started?
Yes, the way you started. But I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. I want you to get VM, and I want you to put it in a variable.
Wonderful. As in,
store the state of get VM in a variable. So put that in a variable. What do you reckon you're going to call that variable? If I was going to call that variable, just call it VMs. That's what you do. Just get VMs. Whole bunch collection of VMs. Describing it. Yep. Go ahead. Done. All right. Now I want you to use the where on that.
Now, it's a script block.
It's a bit trickier, isn't it?
It is a bit trickier, yes.
But it's way better though. Like, it's way more powerful. It has a lot more features.
Where? Again,
what I want you to think, that's the script block.
Yep.
Sorry, I just had a full blowout. That's a script block. Oh, you guys can't see it. I'm going to use my mouse. So that's a script block right there. So that, like, think of it when you're thinking where object and you see the curly brace. Think script block. That's basically that script block. All it's doing is it's evaluating the condition. So if you're basically specifying a script block down here, it needs to be, all it needs to do is just do that.
Yeah.
100%. It's basically, remember, so one thing I want you to, like, it's a thing that once it kind of clicks in your head, when you see where object or where, it's, all it's doing is it looks like it's a script block. Script block is just code. So you can actually, like, I wouldn't do it, but you'd actually put, I could actually write code into that. But what you need to think about is that in this instance, the only thing that script block cares about is, does it return true or does it return false? So when you specify the script block, what you're saying is that does this expression, does this condition equal true or false? So in this instance, you basically, it's just name and equals blah. So the tab complete is handy to confirm that the commandlet that you think exists or actually exists. Yep, 100%. Tag complete's also useful for parameters. If you don't know the parameters, tab. Now, I'm not going to go into the advanced features for where, because we'll be here all day. But I kind of just at least want to make sure it's...
Yeah. We did kind of cover the advanced features.
Yeah, that's exactly right, but it's just a bit of a quick recap and make sure we're good. All right, so you've got where. So let's suss it out, make sure it's working.
Hooray.
Unexpected token. What do you think's broken there?
Well, it's...
No, it's 100% right.
Well,
you're missing a space. Oh, sorry, you got to get rid of that white space. Yeah. Think of it as when it's a method. It's not a commandlet, it's a method, which means, it hates white spaces.
Wonderful.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Sweet. Good. All right. I think that's a wrap. Nice. All right, so we're going to be basically going into for each and for each object. So for each, we're not going to be exploring the advanced features of for each. We're not going to be talking about paralleling or anything like that, because paralleling and that and for each, that PowerShell workspaces is really to do with PowerShell workspaces. PowerShell workspaces. Best way to describe what PowerShell workspaces is, it was released in version 3. It was intended as a multi-threading approach to PowerShell. The problem with PowerShell workspaces was you only were able to run specific PowerShell commands that they basically wrote. So if you had a custom piece of code that went and did .NET or something like that, it wouldn't work. So it kind of defeated the purpose of it. It didn't really take off. I never really used it. I researched it and I've gone, that's great, but there was many other ways to do it. So like using run spaces or what I did last week with a function. It's there, always good to know. You might want to use it for some instance, but paralleling. So for instance, generally for each, we're just going to stick with the basics. So let's head back into here. We're just going to use get process. I'm actually just going to for each, so we're just going to call these processes. So we've got get process. So we're just enumerating a collection of processes. And what we're going to do, the best way to, I want you to basically just print me the name. Actually, no. We're going to write some logic. We're going to write some logic. So what we're going to do is get me using. Actually, no. I've actually got to teach you what for each is before I actually get you to do it. So
you have half run through it.
I've kind of half run through it. So what we have here is our for each statement. So you know how you know in where object we have $_ is the current inline object that is in that in the collection. It's the or the array. It's the same concept for each. So if we go for each, now actually I am going to talk about for as well if we have time, but we're just going to be for eaching and for each object for this instance. So for each basically iterates through each of the objects, similar to what for each object does. Where object basically does it based on the evaluation of a condition. So it's really good for filtering, getting something back. For each is when you want to action something on a specific set of items. So let's say you've read a whole bunch of files, you've got a whole bunch of file directories, and you want to iterate through some of those, and you want to read some of those files, and send emails based on a specific criteria. That's you rather than using where object, where its specific role is to filter. For each is basically better. That's what it's designed for. So in the concept of for each is its current object in. So you denote it with in.
Do you have to put a hyphen in front of that in?
No. So within a for each, you don't need to. You just basically need to stipulate that it's in. It's generally fairly fixed.
So it'd be for each example would be for each commandlet and get command.
Well, that's exactly right. For each commandlet and get command, because you're going to have a collection of commands. Actually, let's just use that because if you're kind of articulating that it actually makes it easy. So we'll use get processes for your example. So if we go get command, we've got a whole bunch of different commands. So if we, I'm just going to use that as an example. In is a keyword, hyphen is an operator. Yeah, there you go. I actually didn't know that, so that's always good to know. Thanks, Glenn.
Much obliged.
So with regards to, so we got get command. So basically, we would go for each. And you can see I've kind of spaced it. You kind of shouldn't. You can, but for command in commands. Makes sense? Yep. So we're going to be iterating through each command. So the best way we can see there is, let's grab, we can actually go, and you can see we don't have really any ItaliSense.
Count?
Yeah, so, well, actually, we'll just run this. So if we rerun this, it should be smart enough. No, it's not. Fantastic. So we can see, for example, we've got, let's just quickly go commands. This is generally what I do to kind of work out. See how I've indexed 0?
Yep.
So I've got the very first commandlet in the commands collection. Okay. And then what I've done is I'm just going to thank you for reminding me. I'm going to basically pipe that to get member. That's going to give me a list of all the properties that we have for that thing. Now, if I want to have a quick look at it, I'm going to use format list. The reason why I use format list and then I just go star is because it just gives me a nice quick list. I can see what I need to look at, so I can write my filter accordingly.
Yeah.
So let's just go. All right, let's basically write some logic in here. We're going to check the remoting capability, okay?
Yep.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go command, and then we're going to go remoting capability. We're actually going to go if. So we're going to put it inside, we're going to wrap it inside an if statement.
If statement.
Yep, and then basically what we're going to do is we're going to say remoting capability is equal to PowerShell. Okay, like so. And let's just, for some reason, we're just going to, I don't really want to, but let's just pretend we're going to export a file. So what I'm going to do is just going to put in a comment block. Actually, I'm just going to go right host. We are exporting. We are not. We are.
Notionally.
We are pretending. We're notionally. How do you spell that?
Just like that.
Oh, what a guess.
Exporting.
The process. The command. Let's call it the commandlet. Actually, no. This is going to return everything. Let's just use module. So actually, see what I've just done there? I copied and pasted it. So I've gone down into there.
Yep.
Just grab that, copy paste that. So it's a nice little shortcut I do. 100% sure I know that property is going to exist. So what I can do is let's just say anything is, let's just say that. Now, it is case insensitive, but we don't really mind. We are notionally exporting the commandlet to file. And what we're going to do is we're just going to print, again, one of the things you don't do is you don't use write host in production scripts.
Use write output.
Use write output, but you also basically write, if you need to write data to streams, you basically write data to using the various write streams. So you've got write information, write debug, write output, write error, write verbose, write warning. So it's really quite handy. I think there was a new one introduced in PowerShell 6. Can't remember what it is now. Anyway, so we've got write host, all those kinds of different kinds of things. So next thing we're going to do is just going to basically write some information about it. So what I'm going to quickly do is, because we're writing property information, we're not actually writing, so I'll show you what I mean. So if I go command, you see how it highlights orange?
Yep.
And then I put a dot. Write host will interpret that dot as a string. It's not actually interpreting that dot as a property. So if we were to go that dot name, it would just write
the command.
It actually wouldn't write a full command. It would just dump this out and then put dot name at the end. So what you need to do is you need to basically what we call sub-expression. You can wrap it inside its own little object like so. So what that basically does, that dollar says to PowerShell, I'm a variable, or I'm a thing.
Yep.
We wrap it inside of brackets or parentheses. Basically tells it that it's an object or an executable piece of code, and then inside there we've actually put the actual property name. And so all we can do here is we can just call this, let's just call it name like so, and then inside here let's just put the visibility as well, like so. So again, I'm going to go dollar parentheses. It also helps if I can actually put it in properly.
And visibility has an I, not an A.
Does it?
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do. Like that. Now I'm just going to do that, like that. Done. So that basically, anything to do with that.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, let's just change that. I'm just going to put a color, foreground color. It is American, so we actually have to adhere to that. So yeah, unfortunately we don't use color.
Picking on the English people like that, I don't know.
So what we can do is we can just say, let's say it's
yellow.
Yellow. There we go. Perfect. So if we were to run this, we're going to see a whole bunch of them. Actually, none of them. Ooh, interesting, interesting. Why is that not working? Why is that not working? Now that's intriguing me. Why is that not working? Commands dot name. The reason why. The reason why that's not working is, okay, you see there was no results came back.
Yeah.
The reason why that's not working is because commands.module, so the module property is its own object. So check this out. So I just ran get member on there. I just used the you see how it's basically, it's a PS module info. So it has its own property. Oh, sorry, it's its own object. So we actually have to filter, we actually have to go one step further. So what we can actually do is go .name, and then we get the value. See that?
Right.
So you see how we dumped it out. Now you can actually see that's the object. That's a full-blown object right there. And then basically we're actually just looking for name. So we actually need to use .name. Does it make sense?
It does.
It will catch you out. It catches a lot of different people out due to that. So we actually have to go .name. So if we rerun this again, we actually should get some cool stuff. There we go. So we had a whole bunch of different things, and this was all the commands that basically had something, and we wrote some code to do with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's really weird. Does it make sense? While we're doing that, let's say you want to do something else. So you can obviously put other if statements in here. So we can do whatever we want. It's code. So we can actually go if, let's say command.module.name is equal to, let's just say, actually let's just go, more things we can do is just go .name. So one of the things you can do is, because you're running it, it really depends. I just took a little shortcut here. What I did was I actually went, command is that variable. So the command variable is still in memory even after the execution's finished.
Yeah.
Not the best thing to do in scripts, but if you basically just kind of need to quickly get something out of the script. So if I needed to quickly test what the command name, like what the property was for the command name, basically I'm just going to get command.name because I know it persists outside the loop. Now that can cause issues if you're basically doing some bits and pieces in your code, and then you go, for example, outside the loop down here, and you go, hey there, and then you go command like so. It persists outside the loop. It'll catch you out. So it's really important to note. But inside, like what I did there was I just kind of, I'm just kind of just messing around. So what I'm going to do here is I'm basically just saying anything to do
with VM.
With VM. That's looking left or looking right as a wildcard. We're just going to say, let's do the same thing. Pretend we're going to export a file. We're notionally exporting a thing. We're going to give this, what color?
Purple.
Does it support purple? I don't think it does. I think it's magenta. I think you're going to get the closest as magenta. Yeah. Okay, so command name, command visibility, same thing. So we're going to get a whole bunch of magenta stuff as well as yellow stuff.
Cool.
So if we rerun that, there you go. So you got a whole bunch of magenta stuff, a lot more magenta stuff because of obviously there's a lot of stuff.
Much more to do with VMs.
Yeah, so you can see like set VM processor, set VM replication, set VM SAN. There's a lot there. Set VM firmware, set VM. So you can see how it's like you can see it's built up. We obviously got set Azure VM, so it's set AZ VM. So, all right, does that make sense?
It does.
Does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, let me know.
Blame him, not me.
Yeah, blame me because I'm the guy that's trying to teach. So, so what we're going to do now is I want you to drive, and we're going to do Thanks for your vote of confidence, Glenn. So what I'm going to do is actually we're going to use files. So what I'm going to do. It's on system32 because it's a nice neutral directory. So basically, we're going to do a full recurse of that. What I want you to do is iterate through each of those values. Using for each, yep. Why do you think you're using file in files? Like, well, tell me why. Why would you say that? Why not A and B or something like that?
I'm doing it on a hunch, in all honesty.
Okay. The reason why we say, for example, is the reason why we do that is to make it easier to read. It's simple as that. There's like it can be like that could be B, and then we could get for A and B. Like I'm gonna tell you now, I've seen code that does that. But when you come to actually readability, which is one of the big important things with writing code, is readability is really important. And so to make readability important, to make it easier for a person to read it, that makes English sense for a person debugging your code. Okay, he's iterating through each file in files.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Now, if you're saying iterate through, let's say you really obfuscated your code, and you basically had A as files, and then you said for B and A, I'll just be going shift delete. Because you need to name your variable something meaningful to be able to actually think. So that's a perfect example. So anything like, for example, with for each, it's going to be always an individual in a collection, or it's going to be an individual object in a collection. So usually the collection is a group of those objects. So usually it's plural. There's multiple, there's a group of them. And then basically, obviously, as a single object, it's just a single instance. Yeah. Anyway, keep going. So what we're going to do is I want you to get... So, first things first, we're going to F8 that top piece of code because I want you to kind of work through it. That's fine. The reason why that's fine is because you see how that's a non-terminating error?
Yep.
It's still run. Completely still fine. Now, if it terminated, it would basically return back to the console.
So and it would show up red.
No, it'll still show up magenta.
Oh, boring.
Or red in the actual normal PowerShell console. But the premise is that this doesn't terminate the script or the execution that you're trying to achieve. It continues on. Whereas a terminating error would. So, for example, you know how we ran get VM? We weren't an administrator?
And it said we don't have administrator privileges.
That's a terminating error. Yeah. It's not going to try because it can't. So that's your two differences. Anyway, so if we so actually, first things first, let's get... So what I want you to do is I want you to write a similar piece of code like that we did up here. So like let's just pretend we're going to check. Let's just copy this as an example. Well, actually, can you go Control Z? Yep, that's fine. Okay, go Control V. Look at that. So what we're going to do here is basically we're going to actually look at sorry, I'm just kind of holding over here. We're going to do a similar thing here. So what we're going to do is let's look at the file. Let's look at the file extension. That's the date created. Let's go and do something fun. So we're just going to use this code as an example. What I want you to do is just put it inside a comment block.
That would be...
Yep, and just delete that other side. Yep, and then pop it down underneath. Kind of just on the next line. Yep. Oh no. Oh, no. Up. Oh, sorry. Down. Yep, down one more. Because we want to encapsulate that entire script block.
So oh yeah. Yep. Hang on.
Yep, you can get rid of that. That's fine. So I'm going to close it. Okay, so
I love it when all those errors
just disappear. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is I want you to write. So we're going to have a bit of a tinker around. So I want you to get, obviously this is you tinkering around in PowerShell, it's developing your PowerShell skills. So what I want you to do is I want you to get me, we got to firstly work out what the, we want to find out the creator dates, okay? So what we're going to do is let's have a look at, we need to have a look at that data. So we don't know, like we need to start from somewhere, okay? So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to have a look at it. So we're going to go to files and we're going to index 0 or index -1, whatever. We're just going to get something so we can have a look at it. So I want you to do that. but we need to look at the data. Yeah, that was really slow.
What have you done?
I haven't done anything. Why is it so slow?
It's that way.
That's really slow. It could be because it recurse. Oh, sorry. Get child items so big. That's fine though. We can like if worse comes to worse, I can clean it up.
And then it was get member, yeah.
That is really slow. So you're already on get. Oh, there you go. Yep. So hit enter. Man, what's so slow? Hang on, I'm just gonna have a quick look at Task Manager. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's just Visual Studio Code having a whinge. It's fine. All right. So there's all your members. So we want to we're trying to get the creation date.
Creation time would be the.
All right. So if you're not okay, what do you reckon you're going to do to actually verify that? So what do you reckon the next step is? Because we want to look at the data now. We're going to use format list. So we've gotten that. So now go format list. Yep.
That's another hyphen.
Yep. And then we're going to space.
Of course, verb noun.
Yep. Go space and just hit star, which basically says all properties. Here we go. Now we've got all that goodness. So we can see there's the creation time.
Yep.
19th of March 2019. That was when this was installed. I don't think that's the case. I don't think. Anyway, so let's now take that and verify it. So we need to validate that that's basically not an object, or we want to see if it's a date time. That's probably what we want to see, what type. So what object type it is. So what we're going to do is hit up, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at it. So what do you reckon we're going to do there to actually have a look at that specific piece of data?
Once it catches up.
Yeah, once it catches up, because it's super slow. Remember, you can hit tab. Yep, sweet. Sweet. Okay, hit enter. It's really slow. I want to check out Hyper-V. I'm pretty sure we don't have anything running. Alright, so Tuesday, 19th of March. This looks good.
Cool.
Okay, looks good. Alright, let's copy that. Alright, let's get you to just create a quick in one single line comment. Paste. Okay, perfect. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to write an if statement. And we're going to basically say everything that was created on that day, we're going to basically pretend we're going to export the file.
Okay.
And we're going to put the name of the file and the file extension. Now, before you do that, I want you to pipe that to get member.
Ah. And that's why you don't tab things. It's an object.
It's an object.
Woohoo.
System.datetime. Now, one of the really cool things about PowerShell is that basically you can actually pass. You can actually do You can actually do comparisons on dates types.
Yeah.
So we need to convert a string into a datetime.
Where you do the pass as.
So there's a couple of ways you can do it. We're going to take a shortcut.
Yeah.
I'm not going to I don't want you to kind of I kind of want you to watch on, but at the same time I'm like, it's really just kind of thing. So get date. Run away, it's a trap. I'm not doing the super stupid one where you've got to actually specify the culture, because that one's like, try pass is like, datetime try pass is like, oh man, kill me now. So get date, we can get the date. Now you can actually do this. And we can actually just pass thing. Now, basically, what are we talking? When I'm talking about culture, we're talking about what format we presented in America. Date times are formatted differently in Australia to Australia, similar to other countries. For example, Arab nations read right to left.
Yeah.
We read left to right. Culture. That's basically the best way to describe culture settings. There we go. So we can actually pass a string and then we'll actually convert it to a date time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do this. So we're basically going to nest that inside of parentheses because that's the action we want to achieve first before we're doing the comparison.
Yep.
Okay. So this action, with the exception to that plus, this is the action that we're performing first. Okay.
So in other words, it's the quick and dirty way to get a date.
100%. Very dirty. Very, very dirty. You're supposed to basically do from a date time pass, and then you get really, really it gets bad. It gets really bad. I hate using. It's one of the things I hate using in PowerShell is date time. So, all right. So basically, file creation time. All right.
Yep.
So what we can do now is I want you to let's actually, first things first, for the sake of readability, we need to tab that out because we're inside a
yeah, we're inside a command block.
Okay, so we're inside a command block. So what we're going to do now is I want you to print out the command name, so using right host. Hoist.
Yeah, hoist.
We're going to print out the command name. So let's just call, so go open your string. We're going to call it command name. Oh, sorry, command name. We're going to print out the file name. So what do you reckon we're going to put there?
It'll be...
And what's it going to be? I want the entire directory path instead of the file name. What are you going to do there? If you're not sure, if you don't know what the property is, what are you going to do? No.
No? Damn it.
If you're not sure, straight back into here, straight back to files. If you're not sure about anything, and this is what I always will do, if I'm not sure what it is, I'm going to go files, format, list, star. And then I'm going to go find it. Yeah, I said the full path name.
Oh, full name.
Full name. That's the property name.
So it would be file.fullname.
Yeah. Let's quickly check it. Make sure it's not going to have any. It's not going to give us any unexpected surprises. It's not. It's a. We're going to do get member. Type string.
Yeah.
So. Yep, exactly. So that's how I troubleshoot. So if I'm messing around in a console, I'm just going to just jump in there and just go blah 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 blah. So at the end of the day, you're not doing any harm.
Yeah.
It's just you need to understand. If you're not sure what the property is, you need to basically go find it. So yeah. So that's basically a file name. I want you to now get the file extension. So same process. I want you to do the same process of what I just did.
Right host.
So if you're not sure, what are you going to do? Sorry, I actually should have used the full name. I just, out of habit. You can use get member, 100%. I'm just going to tell you all the properties. So go ahead. So what do you reckon it's going to be?
I should have gone format list.
Yep, in your format list. It's totally fine. Get member gets you members and properties. Format list is a quick and dirty way of finding it. Sorry, that's Bub screaming next door. You haven't got the full amount, so we need to.
Yes.
So we need to put a star off the end. There we go. What do you reckon it's going to be?
Dot extension.
Okay, So we get you to go back. And we're going to be looking for extensions that are dot. Let's just say PNG. That's a pretty good one. Yeah. Actually, no, sorry, because we're not doing filtering. So we just do yeah, we're just going to get the extension. So one of the things you like, if you're scared about misspelling it, I grab it,
Yeah.
copy it, and paste it. 100%, you're never gonna go wrong. Unless the only time you're gonna go wrong is basically when we did the first time, and that was due to the fact that we had an object inside an object.
Yeah.
So we need to go check that. So if we now go execute this, everything's going to explode in the world.
Hooray!
Actually,
I mean, that's terrible.
We'll take the stream offline. No. So as you can see, it's running and it didn't return anything. Now we actually have to troubleshoot why. So we've got creation time. Let's just try this. It's actually the creation time, which is interesting. Very interesting. Why is that not working? See that? So what we can do here, so I can actually run this condition right here in the PowerShell line. I'm actually evaluating to see if it's actually returned true or false. Just get rid of that. Oops. False. Interesting.
What if you take away the get date?
So I think the reason why it's not actually liking it is because it is a date time, so we actually need to convert it into a date time format. What we're going to say, I think the reason why is because it's not literal enough.
Not literal enough.
I'll say it's not specific enough. So we basically said 204.57. Okay. What I think has happened in milliseconds. We didn't.
Of course, because it would default to 0.
Yep. 100%.
So it would actually be better to use ticks.
Well, 100%. So if we change it to ticks,
so it'd be file.creationtime.ticks.
Exactly right. And then let's just. The thing is, we don't actually need to create it. We actually don't even need to, because the tick is an integer. We actually don't even need get date. So we can actually get.
We just need the string.
Yep. Oh, it's an integer, so that's all we need. There we go. Look at that. See, it's the ins and outs. It's always the ins and outs. I totally was like, yeah, that one kind of slipped under the radar. So let's just use ticks for the time being because we need to be more specific. Barb is being very, very annoying.
I'd just go with loud.
Oh, very loud. Oh, she's such a cutie. When it comes to bath time, she gets really sad. Then she gets really happy, and then she gets really sad because she's got to go to bed. And then you're like, but then you get to wake up tomorrow morning, and then you're super refreshed, and you get to have the best time of your life. Anyway, there we go. Done. So again, specifics. It was, yes, it was right. I was looking at it, I'm like, yeah, that's right. And then I looked at it again, I'm like, hang on, I bet you it's going to be milliseconds that it's doing comparison on. 100%, yes. And so you did the right thing, ticks. Now, another way we could do is we could actually pass the milliseconds in, but...
Effort.
It really is. I'm kind of like, I am on a time frame here, so I kind of do want to, like, obviously push.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, we want to wrap it up. For each object, we want to do stuff in line, PowerShell pipeline, okay?
Yep.
So when we're trying to do stuff in a PowerShell pipeline, we're trying to do one thing in one command. If we're trying to just do some sysadmin stuff, single pipeline makes sense. Okay, we will use for each object to do our filtering and do execution on that. So a good example is we go to get VM for each object.
I'm gonna put money on that failing.
I'm not going to start these because I will literally like blow up my computer. I'm going to use the process parameter. You don't need to use this. It will by default, this is the default parameter. So generally everyone just kind of goes for each object. We will talk about begin, process, and end. That is something we'll talk about. So in for each object here, we can basically go vm.name. What do you reckon that's going to do?
It's going to fail because we don't have administrator privileges.
That's a good start. So we're going to run this in an elevated shell. What do you reckon it's going to do?
It should, for each object in the list, it should generate its name.
Yep, so it's just going to return its name, write output. If you see something like that, it's just write output. Yep. Now basically, what you can see here is that what does the $_ mean?
In the previous object, so you've called the VMs. In this case, in the previous process in the pipeline. So get VM dot name.
So yeah, so basically $_ is the current object in the current collection in get VM. Exactly the same as where object, $_ in the pipeline. So when it comes to for each object, it's the same process, exactly the same thing. In fact, I can do. It's exactly the same as for each. So if we go. I'm just going to use the like because I can't. See how I'm writing it in one big line?
Yep.
Definitely not recommended, but it's just basically proving the point. So what I can do is here in the PowerShell console, I can really go Shift-Enter to make it a little bit more readable. So, so I can say, yep, that's me. Actually, no, we're going to do a. In fact, this is actually equivalent of where object, to be honest, but we're just going to kind of. So this is going to fetch the main controller, but I've done something different. So you can see how I've got for each object get VM, for each object if name is like test domain. So yep. It's like the test domain controller name.
Right output of the name.
Of the name. But you see how I've just used the name?
Yep.
And I actually haven't used the full object. So I want you to quickly note something. And this is something about pipeline semantics. Is if we just do this, that's all we got. So rather than I basically, when I did a write output $_.name, I'm only returning that specific property. Now, if I was to return $_, that's going to return the entire object. Now, the only reason why it worked like that is because getVM is actually smart enough to know that that specific property is what it needs to get the VM.
Well, yeah, because you've already called it in the pipeline previously.
So this is really one of the powerful things about the PowerShell pipeline is that you can kind of get away with it. Now, it's when you're doing very, very large things with, for example, with an Active Directory and things like that, you generally would, like I generally try and keep the object intact. So what I mean by that is if you need to do a filter, so for example, if you're doing a where object or something like that, filter on the property name, but don't unless there's a specific reason, if you're trying to return, try and keep the object the same through the pipeline. It makes it much easier to manipulate. So it's the same. So with for each object is exactly the same as for each. I can basically do this. For example, I can go. I just want to go right host. Hello world. Oh, hello Glenn. And there we go. Hello, Glenn. Bang. For every item within that will be iterated to hello, Glenn. Does it make sense?
It does.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Does that make sense, Glenn?
Does that make sense, Glenn? Oh, Glenn's like, yes. Hello. He's like, you spelt my name wrong, so I don't respond because I have to use a double N rather than a single N. So I'll just quickly correct that. Yes. It's. There we go. Everything's better with the world. All right, so that's basically for each object. Pretty straightforward. Now we're going to go one step further. Okay. Oh, that's fine. So we're going to quickly talk about the begin process and end blocks. Okay. So we're going to use get. We're just going to, because we're inside VS Code, we're just going to use. We're going to use for each. We're going to use get process. We have the begin, the process, and the end blocks. Okay. So basically, in this applies to functions. So if you have a function,
there's a C in there.
it also applies to that. Begin, process, and end blocks.
Yep.
What do you reckon it does?
It's essentially like the parentheses. It tells it what to do. Actually, I'd say it's a bit like a pester test. You call it. You say that this is what you need to do before starting. This is what you are going to do for the test, and then this is how you close it out.
You're actually pretty much bang on in terms of what it does. Obviously, using pester as an example, the begin, process, and end block basically stipulates how execution is carried out. It allows you to organize your code a little bit easier and do things. So, for example, let's say you like the begin block's really used for before the action is actually processed. The begin block will run, and that basically sets up your loop as per se. So that's your setup. The end block is you tear down, but it's really your return. Like they basically, the whole concept is your begin block is, for example, you define a collection object. The end block is you return it.
Would this essentially be what you did to create the test object property script?
Yes. Yes and no. But yes, so we can actually use that as we can. Well, actually, no, we can't use that as an example. That's a little bit
excessive.
But like, let's just use a quick example. So the begin block is something that only needs to be executed once. So it's only going to be executed once at the beginning of the loop. So in these instances, you would put things like, so if you're defining, like, let's just use an in existence, we're going to have a collection, or we're going to just define an array. Okay?
You did indeed,
Yeah,
but we're not there
mate.
yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We just started going through the begin, process, and end blocks for each object. So I'm just explaining to Christian how it all kind of hangs together. So you only need to execute it once. The reason why it's quite handy is because what it means is for the begin process, like you want to execute it once. You don't need to execute it multiple times. Now, it's really good because basically it allows you to set up your loop correctly. So you're not kind of like you can do it other ways. It's like for functions, it's a little bit more useful. But in this instance, rather than like you could do it like this, so I could actually set it up like that. So I could do the same thing like that, and don't have to begin process and end blocks. The only reason why you put it inside there, it just aids readability. And so we can say, you know. But realistically, for a function, however, so if we just go to the thing, it makes a lot more sense because basically the way that the function processes it in terms of if you've got a function that's basically accepting a piped item, it processes it a little bit differently. So the begin block will get the way that those blocks get executed is a little bit different. We're not going to talk about that today. But it's very useful to know because it's basically for example with a function, it actually has a reason.
Yeah.
There's a specific reason. But for each object, not really. It's only there for the sake of actually making readability. So if I know I'm going to have a for each, a begin, process, and end, it just makes it a little bit easier to actually read my code. It also helps if I like to structure my code properly.
It's
That is not like, I'm sorry, I'm having a massive memory blank right now.
Is that called concatenate?
No, that's basically what that's saying is that backtick is on a commandlet is saying I'm more than one line.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
just I didn't know the proper word for it.
So what we can do is define our array here.
Yep.
So we built the array. Array will get initialized once, and then we're going to actually iterate through that array. And we're actually going to just add to it. So we're going to go array plus equals. Actually, we're just going to plus plus.
And that'll count it once.
Yep. All right. What's the difference between this?
Should that be in front of the object in its entirety?
That and this. What are the differences? We covered it.
Yeah, we did.
Because it was a gotcha.
It's been a while ago.
Yeah. It's pre and post. So
Yeah.
this will add pre. This will add post.
Okay, so it adds it and then calls it. The other one it calls it, then adds it.
So so this will call it, add it. That will add it, call it. Straightforward. But we're just going. Most people use plus plus. You don't generally use. Most people just use this one because it just makes sense. But yeah. So what we're going to need to do here is we're just going to do a. We're also going. What we're going to do is we're going to put a counter in here. Okay. So we're just going to go counter. We're going to create a counter.
Yep.
We're going to call it 0. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go array, and then we're going to go plus equals. Plus equals basically says plus means add to the array. So we're going to say
counter plus 1.
Counter plus plus. So it's going to initially add 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to go write output, and we're just going to write output. What do you reckon?
Array.
The array, exactly. So what do you reckon this execution's going to do?
Well, it's going to count how many. So it's going to enumerate into an array how many processes there are. So, not so much a count of them, but actually what almost their IDs, like
It's
in
going to be a
numerical
count.
ID.
It's going to be a count.
Well, yeah, but in an array.
Yeah. It's a terrible way of doing it, but it's just a good way of thinking.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk me through the execution of that. Tell me what you reckon it's going to do.
Okay, so it'll call the process. The process list, obviously.
Yep.
Pipe it through to for each object. Whenever for each object iterates, it will essentially each time there's a new object in a list, in a collection, it'll repeat the command. Now, the begin, as you said, that executes before it actually begins the process itself. So you've called an array and set a counter, starting at 0. So you then go to the process, which is you're calling the array. You're telling the array to equal what the counter is plus 1. And so each time, so for your first process, it'll become 1, then second process, 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And then at the end, you're just going to write the array.
Okay. Yep, that's pretty bang on. All right, let's change this up a bit because I'm a bit of a tool. What do you reckon that's going to do?
It's going to type. It's going to enter into the array each of the names.
100%. All right, let's do it. So, F8. There we go. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yep.
It's a much cleaner way of keeping your code. Most of the time you don't, but like you don't really use it all the time. But there are times you need to use it. So it really comes down to, like, for example, some people like to use the finally statement and try catch. So you go try catch and finally.
To carry out that process.
So try basically the finally block will get executed regardless of the try and catch. Well, excuse me. So it's just kind of like there for kind of grouping It like, because at the end of the day though, it's not like, from a code execution point of view, if this catch statement is being executed and it's not actually throwing or terminating error or anything like that, then at the end of the day though, like the code underneath here is still going to get executed.
Yep.
It's more for actually like not demonstrating, but it's more for being able to group and associate that specific piece of code to the try catch block. So it's the same concept here, is that basically you would use begin, process, and end to attribute those specific pieces of code to that specific value. So does that make sense?
It does.
All right, cool. Your turn. All right.
All right.
So what we're going to do, I'm going to get rid of all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use get process. Sorry.
I have room at the desk.
Yeah.
I've been promoted.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, we're going to go for each object.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to print the variable meow each time.
Including the name? Or just by itself?
Just meow. Go ahead and execute it. Bang on, perfect. All right. So that's standard
Yep.
for each. I'm not really going to go any further detail. It's like pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's make it more complicated. All right, I want you to is files. Can you just check if files still in memory? Just go to $files. Cool. Control C. We don't need to see the full list. All right, we're going to use files. So what we're going to do is go back to 6.3. We're going to basically use for each object on files. So we're going to go files. What do you reckon we're going to do after that? Yep. All right, I want you to declare an array.
Create an array. During or...
Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have some fun. So I want you to create a it's up to you. I want you to enumerate all the files that contain the extension PNG. Those extension names, I want you to write that entire object into a collection that you're going to return back. So it's similar to what we're going to do with where object, but we're actually going to write it out. So you don't have to go multi-line. Like that's not. It's the only reason why I do it is for readability. Like if you're one-lining it and it's something really basic, you don't.
Well, this isn't basic up here, so...
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So one of the things I want you to remember is that, yes, this is an array, but basically an array is only for single values. So when we're actually talking something like a collection is a collection of objects. It's not an array. They're two different things. So I would just call it, a collection, col. Something like that. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so we've got process.
And we need to go
Let's turn this light on.
collection. You wanted the name still written out, didn't you?
I wanted the object, yes. So how are you going to add the object? But they were the only, just quick, remember, one caveat though, it was the object that, all the objects that, of the file extension that contains .png. So you're going to need an if statement. That's one of the things you're going to need in there. So before you even do an add on a collection, up there you're going to need to define. Also put a space on between the hyphen on 6.5. Yep.
Okay.
So we're going to do an if statement. So if, I'm going to do a condition. And if a condition is standard parentheses, not curly brace. Yep. So what do you reckon it's going to be?
If
Look at that. Smack on. Bang. Nice job. Yep.
is equal to PNG.
Just quick correction, it's .png, but yeah, bang on, mate. Nice job. All right. So what are we going to do inside that now? So basically, we've defined our condition. We need to now use the. What else do we need to do on the if statement?
Then
What do you think you're going to need to do to add that object to the collection?
do you add the plus or do you leave it like that?
It's 100% right, mate. It's 100% right. Nice job. That's perfect. Exactly right. $_ is the current object. That's perfect. What else are we going to do?
At the end, but output. I could have sworn that was the $ symbol.
Yep, and that's pretty much bang on. So basically, we build our collection. PS script analyzer's having a whinge for whatever reason. Script analyzer. So if we run that, just hit F8. There's all our PNG files, and you can see how this is one thing I want you to do. Oh, Bob wants to come in and say good day. So one of the things we can do is we're actually going to go now in each. We can keep piping.
Yep.
This is the beauty about for each object, so we can keep piping. So we can actually go where object. It's a really bad idea, and we can go .name is equal to. Let's just say it's equal to x80.png. Okay. Like so. F8. There's our that. You know what? We're still using the same object. Let's keep going. Let's go select object and let's just say time. What we're going to say is we want everything to do with any property name called time. Left or right. There we go. We can even go further.
Yeah, and then say
that's the power of the pipeline, is that you can just keep going on and on and on and on and on and on. So we can go, okay. Just put another for each object in there. We can iterate through those values.
Yeah. But then this is where it becomes very, very messy.
Well, that's exactly right. Like, actually, no, for each objects are bad because technically that's a, yeah. But but the whole concept is that you can keep piping on and on and on and on and on and on. We can actually go, let's
convert to CSV.
Convert to CSV. So now we're going to get a CSV.
Except you spelled convert wrong.
So we can actually, so we can actually now get a CSV of all that information. So this is the power of PowerShell and why it's so good with the pipeline, is that we can just keep going on and on and on and on and on and on in line. I hope that really, that taught something to everyone. I hope you guys liked it. Yeah, that was really good. So that's basically a really good overview of for each object. We did a recap of where objects, and for each. I hope you guys enjoyed it. yeah, it's really
Let
cool.
me know if my explanations throughout just didn't make sense, or if they did. Good to know.
Yeah, no type. No, I'm pretty sure it is.
You're using 6.2, and you spelled version wrong.
6.2. Um, so yeah, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a really good time. It was really good fun for you guys. So yeah, if you guys liked it, don't forget to subscribe. That sounds it's so cliche. It really is. Um, like
I think you need one of those signs, just hold it up, subscribe, put it down.
yeah, like I just feel like such a douchebag for saying that because I'm just
Yeah.
like
Like, comment, subscribe, and all
yeah,
that.
yeah. Don't forget to click these links, guys. Oh, that's the fun. Yeah, if you didn't like it, subscribe anyway, and then jump into the suggestion box and tell me that it was terrible. Yeah, or
And
just
how we can improve.
yeah, or yeah, because at the end of the day, it's always good to improve. Forgive the RGB terribleness because that is me testing some
Who knows?
testing.
Some people may like that.
I hate it so much. I hate RGB so much, like so much. But that's what happens when you've got like a controller that doesn't like to play ball, and then like for some reason you uninstall it and then it works, and it's like plenty of voltage for everything.
Yeah, that's a bit like when you're trying to do VS Live Share and it doesn't work until an update gets passed, and then it
Yeah,
does.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely do all those things that we talked about. Next Tuesday is a meetup. So we're doing a PowerShell meetup. It's going to be me talking on Azure Functions. If you've obviously been following the 101 with Michael and Christian, so we're going to be talking about a bit about Azure Functions. So it'll be with PowerShell, so it'll be all that kind of Shazam. So you guys will pretty much be in the same kind of the same boat. Um, with next Friday. I think I am streaming this Friday. Next Friday, not this Friday coming, but next Friday I won't be streaming. I'll be in a wedding, a mate's wedding, which will be good. I'll be in Sydney. And
So no
then
stream.
no stream on next following Friday unless I'll be like, yeah, let's get the phone out and then PowerShell live, and there's just a whole bunch of guys singing horses. Which would be, yeah, I've already got that going on repeat with Spotify. But anyway, thanks guys for joining us. I hope you really liked it. Don't forget to, I'm not even going to say that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And yeah.
Oh, I found out Mixicals that follow, by the way.
Anyway, bye for now.
See ya.